Senator Ron Wyden from the state of Oregon, who was the chair of the Senate Finance Committee in 2022, putting together the Inflation Reduction Act, otherwise known as the biggest climate bill in the history of the world. Okay, and in that bill, obviously there were dramatic changes that were being made to the long-term direction of our nation. And what we're witnessing here today is an all-out assault waged by Donald Trump and his cronies in Congress on clean air, on climate, on a just transition. Over the last 5 months, the Trump administration has made one thing absolutely painfully clear. They are putting oil above all. Above the law, above the economy, and above the health and wallets of working families. Yesterday and today, Republicans took two giant strides to blindly follow their leader, Donald Trump, and cement their oil above all legacy. First, House Republicans passed Trump's big, beautiful bill, which is more like Trump's big billionaire bailout that strips essential funding for every American to live in cleaner, healthier communities. Second is Senate Republicans' assault on Senate rules and the California Clean Air Act waivers that lets California set stronger vehicle pollution standards than the federal floor. And to do so, Republicans had to overrule the Senate parliamentarian, which has dramatic implications far beyond car emissions. Our leader in this effort has just joined us, and he is omniscient, but he is not ubiquitous. So, it is.
But he is late.
But so it is absolutely imperative that we allow him to move on to the next crisis that he is trying to deal with today. So let me just begin by introducing our great leader of the Democrats in the Senate, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, and let me thank Eddie Markey for his amazing steadfastness on the climate issue. He's done more than just about anybody else to move this issue forward. And our great leader, Ron Wyden, who, as chairman of the Finance Committee, did so much in terms of clean energy tax credits. And then, of course, we got it done when I had Manchin in that little room down in the basement, and we got these credits added, and it's one of the greatest things that happened. Now, let me just say this. It's no wonder the Republicans passed their bill in the dark of night, because they don't want anyone to know what's in it. And there are so many bad things in this bill, but they made it overnight. It went from terrible to even more terrible. And let me just say, what the House just passed last night makes it significantly easier for us to take back the Senate. And one of the main reasons for that is the clean energy. If you look at where the credits are, these great credits that employ so many people, that create green energy, that help us compete with China in the field. Oh, we have the chart. Am I allowed to hold it up?
Yeah.
This is the chart that was from the front page of the New York Times. And the red dots are Republican districts and similar Republican states, and the blue dots are Democratic. According to this New York Times chart, they cut off the numbers, but it's like $680 billion in red states and $187 billion in blue states, okay? And last night what they did is kill the program, plain and simple. It's sort of like Social Security. So they didn't want to say they want to kill Social Security, so they strangled it. Bad phone lines, bad emails, fewer offices, fewer people. Same thing here. They didn't want to say they killed it, but then they said, if you don't have a project with shovel in the ground 60 days after this bill passes, the credits disappear. That is killing the program. Make no mistake about it. Totally. Totally. And then, of course, any project that's not finished, that's already going by 2028, also loses its credits. So even for they're preventing any programs from starting, any new clean energy investments from starting, and they're killing the ones that are already going. It's just an outrage. And here, We have the cheapest form. The administration is so damn hypocritical. They say they want to produce more energy, and at the same time, they cut off the cleanest, quickest, easiest, and cheapest form of new energy we could produce, which is solar. Plain and simple. So they're a bunch of hypocrites, total hypocrites. We need more energy. But why are they doing this? Why are they so hypocritical? And why are they so nasty to clean energy? Because they're controlled by a small group of oil and gas barons who became billionaires by striking it rich in the Permian Basin or the Anadarko Basin. And those guys know that clean energy is the future, that oil and gas has limited future, and so they want to kill it, kill clean energy, so they're the only ones. This is going to hurt not just us. I wonder about my children and grandchildren who are going to pay so much more for energy. And China, the third point, we want to make sure China doesn't dominate. This bill makes sure that China will dominate the world on clean energy and affect your grandchildren, maybe your cousins and nephews and nieces, and my grandchildren. So it's a goddamn outrage what they have done here. And we're going to fight it tooth and nail. We believe there are a whole lot of Republicans who are in these nice red states, who know the damage, the thousands and thousands of jobs that are lost, the higher cost of energy their constituents will pay. So we want everyone in the country, call up your senator, particularly if it's a Republican senator, and say, save this. And one more point. We know that that global warming is increasing. We know the climate crisis is getting greater and greater and greater. We see it in all of the weather changes we have seen. New York State had 40 tornadoes. 30 years ago, we had none. That's New York State, not in the tornado belt. And insurance costs are going through the roof in many of the coastal areas. You can't buy a home because you can't get insurance. You can't sell a home because the buyer can't get insurance. It's affecting us all over. So I've said enough because I was late. I apologize. I have to go to my next stop, as Eddie said, but I really want to thank Eddie for calling this great event, and Ron for his amazing leadership. And I'll leave you my chart.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank
Well
you, Chuck.
said.
Thank you for your great leadership. IRA, biggest climate bill in history. So we thank you, Chuck, so much. And what Chuck is saying is true. We're going to hand this over to the Chinese if the Republicans have anything to say about it. This year, the Chinese are investing $1 trillion this year in new installed low-carbon technology. The Japanese have announced a $1 trillion program over the next 10 years. They're one-third the size of the United States. And today, what we're seeing is a 1-2 punch that is being delivered by the Republican Party against our ability to compete in the clean energy field for the 21st century, destroying the tax credits, destroying the climate bank, and destroying at the same time what California can do and other states to improve the fuel economy standards, to move to all-electric vehicles. So on all of those fronts, this is a surrender of the clean energy future by the United States to the Chinese, to the Japanese, and to others who are going to be moving into this area. And it's the same as what they're doing with NIH in dramatically cutting all NIH, dramatically cutting all National Science Foundation funding. It's handing over biotech, it's handing over medical research over to the Chinese, over to others. Gift-wrapped, the two areas of innovation that should be at the center of where the United States is leading, has always led. And it's just because of the oil and gas industry, of this payback to the oil and gas barons who contributed so much money to Donald Trump in 2024 election cycle. But unfortunately, while it may help the oil and gas industry, it's going to have a devastating long-term impact on next generation of Americans and people on the planet, because the United States is the essential leader. You cannot preach temperance from a bar stool. You cannot tell the rest of the world what to do if you yourself have stopped in any way advancing that better agenda for the planet. So let me now turn and introduce our great leader on all of those tax breaks, Senator Ron Wyden
Thank
from
you,
the state
Ed.
of
And,
Oregon.
I'm going to make this a filibuster-free zone, but I am especially proud to be with my long-term friend. We've been working on these issues for a long time. And just a quick 2-minute kind of history. When we showed up in the spring of 2021, there had been 50 years, 50 years worth of gridlock on climate. No carbon pricing, no cap and trade, none of the wonderful work that Ed and Henry Waxman had been done, absolutely nothing. And we showed up and said, look, we got this broken down, busted system where basically the lobbies get to tell the members where the tax breaks are going. And usually the tax breaks had a shelf life of just a little bit longer than a carton of eggs. So we needed to do all the work that Ed and others had been doing. So against the odds, we put together a proposal in the Finance Committee which said that we're going to have an investment of something close to $400 billion. That's what Ed's talking about when he talks about the biggest private investment. That's why you see wind, for example, in New England, something that's been so important, and you see geothermal in the Pacific Northwest. And what I can tell you is whenever the House of Representatives meets now, the future of clean energy in America gets dimmer. And let me give you just a quick example of last night, okay? We're not talking about 6 months or something like that. Last night, basically, they decided to take the investment and production tax credits and disallow them for residential solar leases. So they're sending a message that they don't want our country to be doing anything to empower, homeowners and people who want day in and day out to make a big difference in terms of solar energy. What they would do last night, if this stays, and remember, we're going to be fighting all this. We're going to fight what Ed and I are talking about as we go to the Senate and all the rest. We would be fighting any remaining incentive for rooftop solar and residential wind. Just say that to yourself. A bunch of people showed up yesterday, and they thought this far-right bill that did so much damage wasn't damaging enough. And so they said, we'll get even greedier, and we'll do more to unravel solar and residential wind. So we know that the United States is now going to produce less energy under their bill at a time when our needs are climbing. We know that prices are going to get higher. You're going to pay more at the pump. Clean energy workers are going to lose their jobs. And let me bring it home in a very direct way. For rural America, the House of Representatives changes on clean energy are going to hit communities like a wrecking ball. Because our legislation, if you look at that map that my friend Ed held up, where have we seen the most progress? We've seen it in rural America. We've seen it in communities that really didn't have, they told us at least, they didn't have a lot of hope. And they didn't have opportunities to get these innovative companies and jumpstart new approaches to create jobs. So let me tell you what we're going to say as we go out and fight this. I'm going to say, don't make these incredibly damaging changes on clean energy in the House of Representatives. Because if you do, you're sending a message to rural America that all those jobs and all that hope and all that opportunity may just leave town with the end of these clean energy tax breaks. So if you think we're serious about fighting this, you got the message. We are going to be at this day in and day out. When Ed and I are done, we're going to go off and stay in touch with a bunch of companies that we haven't heard enough from here in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think we especially want to give a big round of applause to these guys because political change hardly ever starts in a government building and trickles down. Political change is just the opposite. It's grassroots up. Bravo, guys.
Thank you. Great job.
And softball questions for me, anything difficult for Ed?
So here's what's happening. Last year in the United States, 94% of all new installed electrical generation capacity was wind, solar, and battery, which left 6% for natural gas. This, as a result, is an existential threat to the natural gas industry. No need for more pipelines of natural gas. No need to continue to expand all of the pollution that goes up into the air that is then breathed by children in their lungs with particulate matter, with other noxious chemicals that ultimately lead to more disease in young people and families all across our country. So they have to kill something that is working in the marketplace. And simultaneously, they are attempting to kill the green bank that I created with Chris Van Hollen in the legislation. $20 billion that, according to McKinsey, will unleash $250 billion worth of private sector investment. Again, a threat to the natural gas industry. So they have to kill offshore wind. They have to kill wind onshore and solar. And then the California waiver, which goes back to many years ago out of the Energy and Commerce Committee that Ron and I served on, producing that Clean Air Act, which allowed for a waiver for the state of California because they had the highest level of pollution in the country. And that's been on the books for 55 years. And they are now taking a direct attack at the California waiver to reduce pollution, to reduce asthmas, to reduce lung cancers, to reduce all of the damage which was being done and continues to be done by the emissions of fossil fuels up into the atmosphere. But what they're really trying to do is to take care of the oil industry because we put 70% of the oil which we consume into gasoline tanks. And so to the extent to which we're up to 1.5 million all-electric vehicles last year that were sold in our country, that's a direct threat to the oil industry. But of course, it is also a huge protection for the families of our country. Lower prices long-term because of those vehicles, less pollutants up into the atmosphere, and jobs by the millions across the entire clean energy spectrum. They're destroying all of it, or attempting to do so. I just want to reiterate what Ron just said. We're not going away. We may have just been knocked down in the House of Representatives. We are not knocked out in the Senate. We're up, we're going to fight, and we're going to make sure that every one of these Republican senators is made to be accountable, because 80% of the jobs are in red states. They are the ones that are seeing this enormous manufacturing boom that has occurred, $400 billion just since 2022, 400,000 new jobs, all of it disproportionately in red states. We're going to make that argument.
I got to go to another meeting to fight for Ed Markey.
Okay, any questions? Any questions for Ron Wyden before you leave? Yes, right here.
Are you optimistic that you can stop this bill in the Senate
What I can tell you is that Republicans are already talking about some industries that they think are part of their future that will be sacrificed. And I'm talking about things like geothermal, I'm talking about nuclear. This is not an abstract issue to a bunch of them. They tried to figure out how this happened, and they got greedy, some of the sponsors, and now some of the Republican senators are saying, we can't go along with that.
One more for you there, but on the CRAs, what do you think Democrats might try to do with these new rules around CRAs now that it seems to open it up?
Well, again, the state of California is going to take it to court. You know, Governor Newsom has made it very clear that he is going to challenge the ability of the Republican Senate and House to violate this 55-year precedent that has been on the books. So I'm very confident that California will win. It's just a fundamental violation of the parliamentary rules in the Congress to achieve a political goal. So I'm very much looking forward to that lawsuit, and I'm very confident that California will win. Questions from anyone? Thank you all so much. Thanks for being here. Thank you all.
Thank you for your co-sponsorship.